Before this story pulls you under, do one thing: subscribe, like, and leave a comment if you're ready to hear what they never wanted exposed. Because once you step inside Angola Prison, there's no rewinding what you're about to learn. The call came in just before dawn, when the fog still clung to the ground like it didn't want to see what daylight would reveal. A corrections officer on the night shift had noticed something wrong in C-Tier, one of the oldest housing blocks at Angola Prison. An inmate hadn't moved during count. No pacing, no coughing, no response, just stillness. When they unlocked the cell, they didn't find blood. They didn't find signs of a struggle. What they found was worse. The man sat upright on his bunk, eyes open, jaw locked, hands clenched so tightly his fingernails had cut into his palms. The official report would later call it natural causes. But everyone in that tier knew the truth was already leaking through the cracks. His name was Marcus Hale. Marcus wasn't a lifer. He wasn't a gang leader. He wasn't loud or violent or reckless. He was 4 years into a 10-year sentence and scheduled for a review hearing in less than 6 months. He kept his head down, worked in the prison library, and wrote letters to his daughter every Sunday. The kind of inmate Angola claimed could be rehabilitated. But Marcus had made one mistake. 3 weeks earlier, he had filed a grievance. The paperwork itself looked harmless. No accusations, no names. Just a formal request to be moved from his housing unit due to ongoing disciplinary practices not reflected in official records. The grievance was denied within 48 hours. No explanation, no follow-up, no transfer. After that, Marcus stopped talking. In Angola, silence is currency, and fear is enforced without leaving a mark. Detective Aaron Pike arrived on site hours later, escorted through steel gates and razor wire that stretched endlessly across the Louisiana flatlands. Angola wasn't just a prison. It was a world cut off from the rest of civilization. The kind of place where rules existed on paper, but reality operated on a different system entirely. Pike had handled prison-related deaths before, but something about this one didn't sit right. No medical emergency, no prior illness, no history of self-harm. And yet, the official stance was already forming before he finished his first walkthrough. Heart failure. Case closed. Pike requested to see Marcus's cell. It was spotless. Too spotless. The kind of clean that suggested someone had been there after the fact. The mattress was perfectly aligned. The few personal items Marcus owned were stacked neatly on the shelf: letters, legal notes, a paperback novel bent at the spine. But what caught Pike's attention was the calendar taped to the wall. Several dates were circled, each circle marked with a small slash through the middle. Punishment days. At least, that's what another inmate would later call them after agreeing to speak off the record, voice shaking, eyes darting toward the surveillance cameras mounted in the corner of the interview room. "They don't write it down," the inmate whispered. "They don't have to. Everybody knows." According to him, certain inmates were placed on administrative routines that didn't officially exist. Extended standing counts that lasted hours, lights left on for days, work assignments designed to exhaust rather than rehabilitate, meals delayed or skipped without documentation, not enough to trigger alarms, just enough to break someone slowly. "These are the punishments they never admit," the inmate said. "Because on paper, nothing happens." Pike asked who authorized it. The inmate shook his head. "That's the thing. Nobody signs off. It just happens." When Picky pulled Marcus Hale's disciplinary file, he found something even stranger. No infractions, no write-ups, no recent incidents. A clean record inside one of the harshest prisons in America. Too clean. Later that evening, Pike met with Warden Ellis Crow, a man who had spent 3 decades inside the Angola system and knew exactly how to keep control. Crow was calm, polite, and cooperative at least on the surface. "Inmates die here," Crow said evenly. "It's unfortunate, but it happens. This facility houses the worst offenders in the state." Pike leaned forward. Marcus Hale wasn't one of them. Crow didn't blink. Rules apply to everyone. But when Pike mentioned the grievance, the air in the room shifted. Crow paused, just long enough to be noticeable. "That document," he said carefully, "was handled according to procedure." Pike left the meeting with more questions than answers. That night, a second incident occurred. An inmate from the same tier as Marcus was rushed to the infirmary after collapsing during a late count. Dehydration. Severe exhaustion. When Pike attempted to interview him the next morning, the bed was empty. "Transferred," he was told. No forwarding location, no paperwork available. By the end of the week, 2 more grievances from C-tier vanished from the system entirely. And then Pike received a sealed envelope slipped under his hotel room door. Inside was a single photocopied page from an internal logbook, something inmates were never supposed to see. Written in shorthand, it listed a sequence of dates, initials, and coded phrases. One phrase appeared repeatedly next to Marcus Hale's name. Routine adjustment. Pike stared at the page, pulse quickening. Because Marcus's name wasn't the last one on the list. And the final entry was dated tomorrow. When Pike realized what that meant, he understood one terrifying truth. Marcus Hale hadn't died because Angola failed him. He died because he saw something he was never supposed to survive long enough to report. By sunrise, the photocopied logbook page was gone. Detective Aaron Pike knew it the moment he reached into his jacket pocket and felt nothing but folded lint and the corner of a receipt. He had memorized the page out of instinct, tracing every line with his eyes the night before, but the absence of the physical proof sent a cold wave through him. Someone knew he had it. Worse, someone had access to him. Inside Angola Prison, the day moved forward as if nothing had happened. Inmates lined up. Gates opened and closed. Guards laughed, joked, and went through routine checks. Marcus Hale's name was never spoken. His cell had already been reassigned. Pike pushed harder. He requested surveillance footage from C-tier for the 72 hours leading up to Marcus's death. The response came back quickly. "System malfunction," the technician said, not meeting his eyes. "Cameras were down." Pike didn't argue. He wrote it down. He was learning that in Angola, resistance only made doors close faster. Instead, he followed the paper trail Marcus had left behind. The grievance system was computerized, but Pike knew better than to trust digital records alone. He asked to inspect archived submissions, printed copies stored in a locked administrative room beneath the main office. 2 hours later, the archivist emerged pale and flustered. "Files from that tier," she said quietly. "They're missing. Not misplaced. Not misfiled. Missing." Pike felt it then, the shift from investigation to danger. This wasn't negligence. This was containment. The first person willing to speak openly was a former corrections officer named Daniel Ruiz. Ruiz had resigned 6 months earlier and now lived 2 counties away, working construction under a different last name. Pike found him after a long drive and an even longer silence. "I didn't quit because of inmates," Ruiz said, hands shaking as he wrapped them around a coffee mug. "I quit because of what the system taught us to ignore." Ruiz described unofficial punishments delivered quietly and strategically. Inmates placed on schedules that disrupted sleep cycles. Medical requests delayed until symptoms worsened, but remained technically non-lethal. Repeated isolation framed as administrative necessity. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that made headlines. "It's not about breaking rules," Ruiz said. "It's about breaking will." When Pike showed him the copied logbook details from memory, Ruiz went still. That code, he said. Routine adjustment. That's internal language. It means someone is being made an example. Pike asked who authorized it. Ruiz hesitated. You won't like the answer. Before he could say more, Ruiz's phone buzzed on the table. No caller ID, just one word in a text message. Careful. Ruiz stood up immediately. I can't help you anymore, he said. They already know you're asking. Back at the prison, Pike discovered his access was being quietly reduced. Requests stalled. Interviews postponed. His badge flagged at doors that had opened for him the day before. Then came the second death. An inmate named Leonard Brooks was found collapsed near the outdoor work fields. No signs of injury. The official explanation was heat exhaustion. But Pike recognized the name instantly. Brooks was the final entry on the copied logbook page. This time, Pike demanded an autopsy. The medical examiner's report arrived incomplete. Pages missing. Cause of death inconclusive. A note scribbled in the margin read, "No external trauma observed." But Pike noticed something else. Dehydration levels consistent with prolonged denial of water, far beyond what a single hot day could cause. Someone was cleaning up in real time. That evening, Pike received a call from an unregistered number. You don't belong here, a calm voice said. You're chasing paperwork that doesn't exist. Pike asked who he was speaking to. A pause, then, someone trying to keep you alive. The line went dead. The next morning, Warden Ellis Crow requested a private meeting. Crow's office felt smaller this time. The walls seemed closer. The silence heavier. You're causing disruption, Crow said. This facility runs on order. Pike slid his notebook across the desk. Order doesn't erase patterns. Crow didn't touch it. You're seeing connections where there are none. What I'm seeing, Pike replied, is inmates punished without records, grievances erased, witnesses transferred, and deaths explained away. Crow leaned back, fingers steepled. Then I suggest you stop looking. That night, Pike returned to his hotel to find the door ajar. Nothing was stolen. His laptop sat untouched. His clothes folded neatly on the bed. But his notebook, the one with every detail he'd gathered, was gone. In its place lay a single sheet of paper, typed. No letterhead, no signature. You are not immune to routine adjustment. Pike didn't sleep. The next day, a guard named Thomas Keller approached him near the perimeter fence. Keller was young, barely 5 years on the job, eyes hollowed by stress. I didn't say anything, Keller whispered. But they think I did. He told Pike about night counts that never ended. About inmates ordered to stand facing walls for hours under the guise of inspections. About supervisors who watched without intervening. I saw Marcus, Keller said. 2 nights before he died. He couldn't sit. They wouldn't let him. Before Pike could ask more, a senior officer appeared at the far end of the walkway. Keller stepped back, panic flashing across his face. I shouldn't have talked, he said. I shouldn't have talked. That afternoon, Keller failed to report for duty. By evening, Pike learned he had been placed on indefinite leave pending investigation. No one could say where he was. As darkness settled over Angola, Pike sat alone, piecing together what little remained. 2 inmates dead. 1 guard vanished, evidence erased. Warnings delivered softly, professionally, efficiently. This wasn't chaos. It was control. And just as Pike began to understand how deep it went, his phone vibrated with a new message. A photo, grainy, taken inside the prison. It showed a locked door beneath the main administration building, one not listed on any official map. Below the image, a single line of text glowed on the screen. That's where the truth is buried. The door beneath the administration building wasn't supposed to exist. Detective Aaron Pike stood at the edge of the restricted corridor just after midnight, the hum of fluorescent lights buzzing like an exposed nerve. The grainy photo still burned in his mind. A steel door. No markings. No number. No mention in any blueprint he had reviewed. Yet every guard he passed avoided that corridor without explanation, as if instinct alone warned them away. Pike waited until the night rotation shifted. Angola never truly slept, but there were moments when the machinery slowed just enough to slip between its gears. The door was real, cold to the touch, scratched around the lock, as though keys had missed their mark more times than usual. Pike didn't force it. He didn't need to. The truth about Angola wasn't hidden behind locked doors. It was hidden behind permission. And tonight, someone had given it to him. The key card worked. Inside, the air changed immediately, stale, recycled, untouched by daylight. The corridor descended into a narrow administrative wing that didn't resemble a holding area or storage space. This place was designed for process, not punishment. Desks, filing cabinets, observation windows looking into empty rooms. Rooms with drains. Pike's stomach tightened. Each room was identical. Concrete floors. A single chair bolted to the ground. Overhead lighting positioned not to illuminate comfort, but compliance. This wasn't an interrogation wing. There were no mirrors. No recording equipment visible. It was worse than that. This was where discipline happened quietly. In the far room, Pike found the records. Handwritten logs stacked in boxes. Dates. Inmate numbers. Not names. Never names. Each entry brief. Clinical. Detached. Extended standing. Light cycle modification. Restricted hydration. Behavior stabilized. Marcus Hale's number appeared 6 times. Leonard Brooks, 4. Others followed. Hundreds of them. Pike photographed everything. He worked fast, knowing every second inside the wing was borrowed time. He didn't know who had tipped him off, only that whoever it was had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. As he turned to leave, footsteps echoed behind him. Slow, deliberate. Warden Ellis Crow stood at the end of the corridor, hands clasped behind his back, expression unreadable. "I wondered how long it would take," Crow said calmly. Pike didn't flinch. "You built a system that kills without leaving bruises." Crow sighed. "You misunderstand. We built a system that maintains order. By breaking people. By reminding them where they are." Crow corrected. "Angola isn't a mistake. It's a warning." Pike raised his phone. "I've already sent copies." Crow smiled faintly. "To who?" Before Pike could answer, radios crackled to life up the corridor. Voices overlapping. Urgent. Panicked. An inmate had collapsed during count. Another. And another. The routine was unraveling. Crow's composure finally cracked. "You think exposing this ends it?" he asked. "They'll deny it. They'll bury it. They always do." "Maybe," Pike said. "But not before people start asking why the same patterns keep appearing." Security flooded the corridor. Pike was escorted out, his phone confiscated, his access revoked on the spot. By morning, he was removed from the case entirely, placed on administrative leave pending review. The story broke 3 weeks later. Not with headlines, not with outrage, with silence. An internal investigation found procedural inconsistencies. No criminal wrongdoing, no individual accountability. Warden Crow announced his retirement shortly afterward, citing health reasons. Marcus Hale's death certificate remained unchanged. Leonard Brooks was never mentioned again. But something shifted. Inmates from C-tier were quietly relocated. Certain routines ended without explanation. Lights began turning off at night. Months later, Pike received a letter with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A grievance form. Filed correctly. Logged properly. Approved. At the bottom, written in careful handwriting, were 6 words. They can't erase everything. Pike folded the paper and stared out the window, knowing the truth about Angola would never fully surface. Not in his lifetime, not cleanly, not without resistance. But it was out there now, in fragments, in whispers, in records that refused to stay buried. And somewhere inside Angola Prison, the system that once operated in total darkness had learned a dangerous lesson. People were watching. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one.